Greetings, I'm Michael DeSanto, and the host of this edition of Champion Chats, where we dive into proven success stories from around the fluid analysis industry. Today, we're joined by my good friend here at POLARIS Laboratories, Dave Tingey. Welcome, Dave.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for joining us here on Champion Chats. I know you have a lot of experience in the specialty testing offerings here at POLARIS, particularly in the area of diesel fuel testing. One of the common questions we usually get is, why does one even need to keep their diesel fuel clean? Because don't the fuel filters do that all alone?
Well, yeah, they do. One of the reasons why a big importance on fuel cleanliness for diesel fuels recently has been the institution of the particle counts to determine fuel cleanliness. And the reason why we do that is because with diesel fuel, with the new engines and the Tier 4 regulations, you've got to get a lot cleaner fuel to those injectors. Where the previous tiers didn't have as much importance, you could be up to 20,000 PSI pressure going to your injectors. And if you have dirty fuel, that's like a sandblaster going through your injectors. So they've implemented these cleanliness values that they want to keep under. And in doing so, fuel filters themselves do remove a lot of the particulate, but you're expected to keep those particulates down to 12.7 in one of the ISO ranges to determine that's when it gets to the injector. And the dirtier your fuel is, the harder your fuel filters have to work. And the chances of them actually getting past to your injectors causing wear, that's the reason why I want to keep it clean.
Then building on that a little bit, how long can diesel fuel even be stored?
Well, diesel fuel used to have an average life of about 10 years before anybody would really start to worry about it. But when they introduced the ultra low sulfur fuel process, to get to that low level of sulfur, they did a lot more hydro cracking of the fuel. And what that did is that gave you more diesel and gasoline from the crude oil, but it also took away a lot of the what we would call the aromatics that would hold the diesel fuel and keep it stable. And when those are stripped away, it really reduced the life of the diesel fuel. And on average, they say within 6 months, you could literally have, especially diesel, if you add any biodiesel to that, you could go within like 6 months, you could be at 95% loss of that efficiency of that diesel fuel due to bacteria and water.
And how does one know if the diesel fuel has biodiesel and at what percent?
Well, that's hard to say. They actually have two ASTM D975, which is what most people reference to when it comes to diesel fuel, and D7467, which is a ASTM reference for B6 to B20 biodiesel added to diesel fuel. And both of those, the only way you can really determine biodiesel concentration is do a FAME test, F-A-M-E test. It's a fatty acyl methyl ester test to determine how much of the organic bio content has been added to the diesel fuel.
Really interesting. I'm glad I've asked. So if fuel filters are being changed a lot, would a testing of the fuel help a maintenance professional understand what's going on in the equipment?
Yes, it will. What would cause a fuel filter to clog prematurely will be a couple things. It could have some bacteria, fungi, mold colonies inside there, which basically will clog a filter. You could have excessive water content, or biodiesel itself, if they did not get all the glycerin out, would cause filters to clog. And then of course, asphaltenes. If the fuel is aged, these asphaltenes fall out of suspension and they sort of clog the filters themselves. So by testing the fuel, you can see at what level your asphaltenes are. You can see if there's bacteria, fungi, mold. And then of course, if you do test for biodiesel, you can actually see how much biodiesel was in there to help determine what that might be the reason why it's clogging.
And then when it comes to standby generators, how often should those be tested and why should they be tested?
Standby generators are a unique creature compared to most diesel engines where everybody's driving across the road. These units sit there and hold the fuel and are there to wait till something happens before they start up and run. There is a organization, NFPA, the National Fire Prevention Association, that came out. They have a standard NFPA 110, and they pretty much put forth that you have to have about a 96-hour fuel requirement for most of your generation. And in that 96 hours, you have to have that thing run for 96 hours continually without any issues. And if your diesel fuel isn't up to par, you might not have that 96 hour. You could shut down. And if that was in a hospital or one of the more emergency rates, that could be a major issue. So you want to test this fuel minimally at least once a year, but it depends on where you're located You might be able to do it every 6 months to determine, is the fuel ready for it to start both cleanliness and fuel quality.
Dave, today I think everybody became a lot more educated on diesel fuel and the importance of it. So thank you very much for joining and sharing your insights today.
Thank you for inviting me, Michael.
And for all of you, thank you for viewing Champion Chats. To learn more about how we help companies save more equipment and increase uptime, visit us at polarislabs.com. See you soon.